Forget the polished paintings. Forget the quiet wooden tables and neatly folded cloths. A typical family dinner in first century Nazareth was loud, smoky, crowded. If you really want to understand the world Jesus grew up in, you don't start in a synagogue. You start here, in a cramped limestone courtyard at sundown, sharing bread from the same bowl. Tonight, we're stepping back 2,000 years to reconstruct what an ordinary evening meal actually looked like, and why these simple dinners quietly shaped a radical ministry that would change the world. Nazareth wasn't a picturesque village. It was practical, dusty, built from pale limestone that absorbed the heat of the day and released it slowly at night. Most families lived in multi-family compounds, small rooms clustered around a shared courtyard. As the sun dipped below the hills, the workday ended. The sound of tools faded, animals were brought in, and the first oil lamps flickered to life. You'd smell it before you saw it. Wood smoke drifting from a clay tabun oven, stinging the eyes slightly. Fresh, barley bread, baking directly against hot stone. This was the moment when labor gave way to gathering. Dinner wasn't rushed. It was intentional. Because in this world, surviving another day was never taken for granted. There was no menu. There was what you had. At the center of the meal was barley bread. Stone ground, coarse, dense. It wasn't soft like modern bread. It was filling, and it doubled as the eating utensil. The main dish was usually a lentil or bean stew, slow simmered with local herbs, cumin, wild onions, sometimes hyssop. Olive oil added richness. Wine, if available, was diluted with water. This simple combination, grain, oil, and wine, was known across the ancient Mediterranean. It fueled laborers, builders, farmers, and families. And it stood in stark contrast to the lavish banquets of the Roman elite happening just miles away. This wasn't luxury. This was sustenance. There were no chairs. Family members reclined or sat on woven mats around a low central tray. The proximity was unavoidable. Elbows touched. Hands crossed paths. Everyone reached toward the same bowl. This mattered. Sharing a dish wasn't casual. It was covenantal. To dip bread into the same stew was a declaration of peace. You didn't eat this way with enemies. Everyone at the table was considered family, even guests. And in a culture without refrigeration, without guarantees of tomorrow, the table was sacred. To eat together was to protect one another. This is where things get profound. Jesus didn't invent table fellowship. He inherited it. He grew up watching meals like this, where dignity wasn't measured by status, but by presence. So when Jesus later ate with tax collectors, sinners, and the socially excluded, he wasn't being reckless. He was being deeply traditional. He was extending the family table to those who had been pushed outside the courtyard. Holiness in this world wasn't separation from people. It was faithfulness in community. Breaking bread wasn't symbolic yet. It was simply life. Every hand dipping into the same dish meant something unspoken. Your hunger matters. Your presence matters. You belong here. This is why so many of Jesus' teachings later unfolded around meals. The table trained people long before parables did. Before sermons, there was supper. Now compare that to us. Eating alone, eating distracted, eating while scrolling. Our tables are full, but our meals are empty. First century Nazareth challenges us not with nostalgia, but with a question. What happens when we reclaim presence, when we slow down, when we treat the table not as a pit stop, but as a place of belonging? The ordinary dinner table shaped an extraordinary ministry, not through luxury, not through perfection, but through shared bread, shared space, and shared humanity. If you want to understand the life of Jesus, don't start with stained glass. Start with smoke in your eyes, warm bread in your hands, and a shared bowl in the center. Because sometimes, the most radical things in history happen quietly, at dinner.